Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back from the ad break. You're still watching Prime Life. Now, this evening, we are joined by Faseegah Davids from the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, and she is here to discuss the fascinating theme of the upcoming spring school program. And the topic that they will be tackling, it will be politics, psychology, and decolonial education. Now, Faseegah will be shedding light on the 6 Saturday sessions that they'll be offering, explaining the interconnections between these topics and also highlighting the program's goal to encourage critical thinking and dialogue. Now, I'm really looking forward to exploring this beautiful topic. She's here in studio with us. Assalamu alaikum, Faseegah. Jazakallah so much for joining us and welcome.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah to you and all the viewers. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Now, before we get into the details of the topic itself, why did you decide to go about this route? Why is it that you saw the need for this topic to be tackled?
Sure, excellent question. So I should probably start off by saying that the Palestine Solidarity Alliance is working in collaboration with the PSA at NMU, that's the PSA at Nelson Mandela University. They've been supportive in kind of bringing this program together, along with the Educators for Humanity group. And so it's solidarity groups coming together essentially to bring this program together. I think what we wanted to do, knowing that education is the most powerful weapon that we could use against oppression, and being a movement essentially of liberation, a pro-human rights movement, a pro-life movement, a pro-Palestine movement, we definitely noticed the gaps of education that some people may have. And so there are a lot of people that are passionate about human rights, and there are a lot of people that may even have a deep interest in politics, but they never had kind of a space or the access to kind of get just the fundamentals broken down to them so they can understand it on that level. And so this program is completely free, and a big part of that was making that accessible to anyone who kind of wants to learn about the fundamentals of politics, and essentially it's again education towards liberation, and that's why we're focusing on decolonial thinking for those who will be attending the classes.
And just to clarify, this is for anyone or just for people that are in school?
Yeah, so this is an open program. Registration does close on the 5th of September. So when seats are full, we won't be able to take more, of course, at least not for this group, because we have to manage groups at a time. But yeah, it's open for anyone 13 years old and up.
That's beautiful, mashallah. Can you please explain the connection, between politics, psychology, and decolonial education in the context of Palestinian liberation?
Sure. So essentially, when we're speaking about the liberation of Palestine, and I mean, you mentioned along with Maimuna in your introduction today, you were speaking about, that Palestine's not the only genocide, that there were genocides before.
Yes.
And what is symptomatic across, or this becomes symptomatic across the board, is that genocides and wars essentially are products of capitalism and colonialism. Right? And so you have these structures and systems in place that were created by the 1% or the elite. And these structures in place has divided society in some shape, way, or form, generally through race or culture or ethnicity, right? And so an underlying theme, therefore, for the program is kind of going to be tackling and understanding those structures, and understanding how do we then move from structures of capitalism, structures of colonialism, structures of racism that has already been put in place and that we currently live in, and how do we move to more progressive structures? So how do we reinvent the world and reimagine the world we want to live in? And that's why it's going to be so beautiful and interactive, with a range of different voices and ages, because I think together and collectively, those who are attending will be able to kind of recreate or reimagine the world they want to live in. Excuse me. And so Palestine, we'll definitely do some case studies on there and some readings on Palestine, but we also want to connect it to other struggles like what's happening in Western Sahara, what's happening in the DRC, and what's happening in Sudan as well, to kind of connect the dots. And so like you said earlier, there will be 6 sessions, and we've broken down each session fundamentally. So the first one will be the foundations of politics and understanding what does it mean to think through a decolonial lens, and then we kind of build up from there as we go along. And then there will be a class on international solidarity where we look at Palestine, Sudan, Congo, etc. And then we have a class on politics where we understand just South Africa and, you know, how does power influence you, and how do you affect power, and what's your relationship with power? So it's going to be vast and broad, but hopefully this is going to inspire some people to maybe go study politics or social justice, or maybe just read more books, or maybe now become an activist, or maybe just get more involved. Or for people who has always been involved, this now gives them some sense of political education to go along with the grassroots organizing. So it's a tool, it's free, and it's accessible. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, man. And I want us to talk about these concepts and how they relate to one another, and, you know, influence the situation in Palestine, because politics, psychology, decolonial education, it's like I'm trying to, you know, figure out how they relate to each other, and also for the viewers at home.
Sure. So politics on a very basic fundamental level is how a society or a group of people organizes themselves in relation to their resources, right? So Aristotle described us, he was a philosopher, he described us as political animals, right? That the nature of people is to want to organize themselves, right? The nature of people is to want and to have needs, right? And so if you put a certain group of people in a certain land with certain resources, they're going to have to survive in those circumstances. So is there going to be a leader? Is there going to be a group of leaders who makes the decisions of who gets what? You know, who decides when you get access to, let's say, the fruit or the vegetables in that land or in that area? So politics on a basic level is how does a society organize itself in relation to its resources, right? And then you can start thinking, okay, so now your power comes into play, because there can be a power struggle if someone wants more and others are not getting an equal amount. And now we start talking about things like equality and justice, you know, like who decides who gets what, right? So that's politics in a nutshell. Decoloniality is the opposite of what the Europeans have come and done. They've colonized the world, right? We know what happened in the transatlantic slave trade in history, that slaves were taken from Africa and, you know, and the Middle East, and they were traveled all over the world to build the lands of the Americas, of Europe, etc. And then, you know, this development happened off slave backs. And when this happened, a lot of their cultures were also taken away from them, right? The autonomy was taken away from them. And so they may have been forced generationally to think in relation to the power structures that were presumed onto them, right? And so what we're trying to achieve with the decolonial thinking is trying to understand you as an individual, right? How do you think? Through which lens do you think? And how does power affect you? And how do you affect power? And so there's a lot of thinking that we have to undo, and a lot of, I think you used the term earlier, also in the introduction, rewiring that we have to do, right? Because we think a lot through colonial lens, and I mean, that's what media still operates in a lot of ways, also through colonial lenses. There's very few media outlets that has been reporting on Palestine, that has been reporting on the genocide, that does do work around human rights, because again, they are following kind of the colonial or the US or the Western imperialist narrative. And so the decolonial thinking essentially is kind of questioning and challenging the thinking patterns that we may have. And I think that's why these classes are so interactive, because it's kind of a space for others to voice how they feel and how they think, but also offer them material from African philosophers, from Middle Eastern and Arab philosophers and educators, and be exposed to that. And that's interesting because in our education system currently, a lot of our textbooks are still written by American authors, even though we are in a South African country. You know, even at a university level, a lot of the education we have is very European. And so it's going to be nice to have African, South African, Arab, and I guess Eastern and Southern teachings and readings that we're going to exchange with students so they can have a different perspective and hopefully open their mind.
And is the purpose of this to shed light on what's happening in Palestine specifically, or are you trying to what do I say, educate people on just general politics of what's happening so they can be able to understand the genocides that are happening better? What is the purpose of the program?
So yes to both, right? I think it's a multi-purpose program essentially. I would say the fundamental purpose of the program, or the core purpose, would be for those who are attending to leave educated, to leave with a sense of community with those who they joined and they kind of had the classes with, and to leave with a sense of critical thinking that they practice when they interact with any topic. That includes Palestine, that includes the workplace, that includes family relations. The goal is to think critically. The goal is to reactivate the mind, right? That's what education is for, essentially. But of course, Palestine, as a Palestine Solidarity Alliance, that's obviously our work. Our work is centered around Palestine, the liberation thereof, understanding the history of Palestine. And so, again, a lot of the work and the education, we're going to kind of use Palestine as case studies for students to engage and understand.
And speaking of engagement, for those who are attending, what can they expect in terms of, you know, interactive elements like engagements and, you know, any kind of topics that will be covered during the 6 sessions?
Sure. So I wish the program could be longer. When we were designing the program, I wanted it to be longer, and you know, we spoke to, obviously we in collaboration, etc. And we needed something that was going to be digestible for a vast audience. And so we started off with kind of, and this is our first spring school program. So this is our flight program, and hopefully from here we can also build up. And so the reason why I'm saying this is because not only are we open to engagement, we also want to hear feedback from students in terms of the development of the programs going forward, right? Because obviously the goal is to uplift and educate and inspire all those who are attending. And so that kind of answers a different question, but ties into what you said. And then to answer your question more specifically, I think what they can expect is a little bit of everything when it comes to their thinking, the world that they are living in, and what's happening in Palestine right now. And we are going to have different lecturers for each class, so they can also have, because everyone has a different way of learning. So everyone also kind of maybe figure out, oh wow, with this lecturer, you know, in this format, I really enjoyed that. And the way this class was taught, you know, I kind of understood things better, etc. And so all that feedback will be very relevant for us in the development of programs as an organization going forward. But even one topic that I'm personally very passionate about is mental health, because I mean that affects Gen Z, and Gen Z has been very vocal about it. And so we were looking at mental health and activism. And so how do we kind of manage our mental health in these spaces? And you're taking in all this content, and it can be pretty heavy because you're learning about death essentially, and you're learning about recreating societies and how societies become dismantled, and you know, all the side effects thereof. And so mental health is a crucial element as well of the program that we want to look at in terms of developing activists.
That is so beautiful, man. And in terms of impact, every time when people organize something, there's obviously something that you're hoping to achieve.
Sure.
What do you hope to achieve in terms of impact when it comes to the attendees?
Sure. So our last class, so the classes will be happening over 6 Saturdays, but then there's one more class, right? And it's not a class, but it's more of like a get-together, and that's our graduation ceremony. And at the graduation ceremony, everyone's vision boards are going to come together. So one of the homework tasks or brainstorming tasks during the course will be for you to reimagine the future or the world you want to live in. right? And to draw up a vision board for that. And we want to bring everyone's vision boards together at graduation and kind of paint a picture of us coming together, right, as humanity, as society, from different ages and backgrounds and different parts of the country. This is what we said we want for the world. This is what we said we maybe want for ourselves. This is what we said we want for humanity. This is what we said we wanted for Palestine. And so all these images, you know, we want to kind of create that and tie it in. And then obviously, hopefully invite them into the organization. There's so many spaces for them to kind of take up and lead, both within the organization and within the youth league. And then, like I said, there's other organizations we're working in collaboration with to hopefully tie into the and build the movement, essentially. It's about movement building and about solidarity building and about community, right? And that kind of keeps people going. Yeah.
Fantastic. And now, as we bring our conversation to a close, can you share a message of hope and inspiration for those interested in learning more about decolonial education and the Palestinian struggle for liberation?
Sure. That one makes me a bit emotional. I mean, watching the headlines and doing this work every day, sometimes I struggle to find hope myself. But what I mean, as a Muslim first, I would say that the income is from us. So we put in our effort, we tie the camel, but the result is from Allah. So we surrender to Allah and we trust that whatever the outcome is, that's in Allah's plans and we are satisfied with that, right? We don't question Allah's will. We are satisfied with Qadir, right? And so, but that doesn't mean we don't put in the effort and we don't take the time and we kind of, you know, learn and strive. That's our job. So I would say let's keep doing that, right? That's the one part. And then I think, for inspiration or hope, I mean, I don't know. I look to all the youth and I look to everyone who's going to be attending for inspiration and for hope. You know, whenever we have events, whenever we have protests, I think as leaders in the space, we pull the hope from those who come, from those who attend, from those who show up, so we can continue doing the work that we're striving to do. So I think hope lies within us coming together. Yeah.
I mean, Faseegah, it has been so lovely chatting to you.
Thank
I think I
you.
really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I wish you nothing but the best with this, program that you'll be doing. And in terms of expectations, I feel like the way it's so beautiful, you're going to have people wanting more. So prepare yourself for that. But I really want you to do this because it's also like you can tell the passion and, you know, how passionate you are speaking about it. So I wish you nothing but the best and success in this beautiful program.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. And just to let viewers know, they can register online. So it is available on our website. If they scroll down, they will see a Spring School poster, and there's a register link. So that's palestinesa.co.za. And they're more than welcome to reach out to us on our social media platforms. That's at PSA_SA or at PSA_YL on Instagram.
Jazakallah so much.
Jazakallah.
Well, viewers at home, there you have it. There was an amazing conversation that I just had with Faseegah Davids, and we were speaking about the PSA Spring School program. And the topic that will be tackled, or the topics, will be politics, psychology, and decolonial education. I feel like this is something that you should not miss because it will change the way you look at things. It will change the way you interact with politics because you're going to be understanding things on a deeper level. And I'm really, really grateful that we have such people in our generation teaching the youth and anyone to attend, you know, about such impactful topics. But on that note, viewers at home, we are going to head over to a quick break. We'll see you after.